Greetings, greetings. We're so delighted to be present with you. Aero Speaks. We're not very computer literate, but we're learning. We're learning a lot these days as our work with our channel changes. So welcome to July 2020. Anybody ready to leave yet? Ready for 2021? Yes. If you're sensitive to energy at all, then you will realize that this past week has been very, very challenging. A lot of aggression, a lot of foggy brain, a lot of violence and anger. Old stuff is coming up for a lot of people. And really want to ask everyone to just take a deep breath, and just be calm. Do your best to be calm in this really stressful period. And this is going to last until about July 27 to 29. So throughout this time, we've talked about this, some of the recordings we've posted to YouTube, we talk about the first, the second, and the third wave of COVID, the virus. The pandemic, and we talk about that the energy is very intense, and then it quiets, and then it gets very intense, and then it quiets. So right now you're just in one of those very intense periods. So it's not going to get better. The one's not right away. We wish we could tell you something that you wanted to hear, but unfortunately everything that we're looking at, everything that we're perceiving, because what's happening, it's not even at this point about the virus itself. It's about a battle of wills, if you will, between entitlement and compassion. Your world is being split between those who are fear-based, i.e. entitled, and those who are seeking to become more rooted in the vibration of love, free of fear, or as free of fear as human consciousness will allow. So, and we don't have judgment, whichever side of the coin you're going to choose, but we will say that choosing the fear-based is a lot more painful. You have the fear, all of you have fear, is part of the condition of being human, and your society has trained you that fear should be your first response. And how many of you have just noticed, just a little quiz here, you don't even have to respond verbally, but how many of you notice that when a stranger gets within 3 feet of you now, there's a little upwelling of, whoa, yeah, you're being programmed to fear other humans more intently than ever before. But those that have this sense of entitlement, and let us explain what we mean by that. The sense of entitlement has a lot to do with, I come first. I'm the most important. What I want matters more than anything else. And in that, you have the fear covered up, usually associated with a layer of pain, usually having something to do with a very specific, not good enough. And then over that is anger, and over that, the potential of rage and violence. And then there's a very thin veneer on top of that, which is the entitlement. And the entitlement is like a shield, because the rest is too vulnerable to deal with, to reveal, to touch, to let the light in. People use fear to control themselves and their world. But that's ugly, and people know that it's ugly to control through fear, so they dress it up, hopefully making it look something a little prettier with entitlement. And this is why you're seeing such battles over something as simple as wear a mask, keep a social distance. Some people are responding to this by saying, you can't tell me what to do, which is fascinating, isn't it? Because wearing a mask is simply a statement of courtesy and regard for the well-being of other humans. So you begin to understand why those that have this sense of entitlement find it very challenging to surrender their right to be number one in their world, having consideration for other people, because it triggers their very vulnerable sense that their fear is going to be awakened and it will overcome them. And so they use their aggression, they use their violence, they use their anger, they use their rage as protective mechanisms. So what we want to challenge those of you who are seeking to become more in line with love, which generates compassion, which generates empathy and sympathy, which generates an allowance, a respect, an honoring, a caring, all of these, is by helping you understand the source of their better than. You can, instead of feeling like you need to go to battle with them, or you need to engage them in their anger, in their aggression, or even potentially open to violence, we really want you to do your best to respond with compassion. They are not even unwilling. They present themselves as unwilling, but the truth of it is they're not able to let go of their better than. It is their armor. It is their protective mechanism. And so as the energy of this wave of pandemic rises, you're going to find, because the events of your world right now are meant to invite you to let go of the armor, to find community in the fact that we're all in this together. Every human is having the same struggles, the same conflicts, the same opportunities, the same challenges. And normally people will bond and come together over what you are having in the same, sharing, experiencing the same. But for those that are not able to trust, because fear and trust are polarities. Trust is a component of love. Trust and truth together are the vibration that hold love in your reality. So if you're unable or unwilling to trust, you generate tremendous fear. So you begin to see from this simple explanation that we provide that it's not that they're broken. It is simply that they're so deeply rooted in fear that they cannot generate at this point another response. But what's happening is it's like going to the beach. Wave after wave after wave after wave of energy is hitting over and over again. And people, unfortunately, humanity has the preferred tool of pain. So a lot of people are generating a really expanded level of discomfort and pain, which is putting pressure on their separateness, putting pressure on them, and they're having to reinvest in their anger, reinvest in their rage, reinvest in their separate better than isolationism. But over time, over generating this pain, because it hurts to be separate. The source of all pain is belief that you are separate from God, from Goddess, from all that is, from other humans. That's the source of all pain. And so they're being gifted opportunity after opportunity to build their pain to the point of crescendo, where they will either capitulate and surrender to the possibility that they don't have to live in such fear, that it might be possible to trust other humans, it might be possible to trust themselves. There might be a truth that they're about to discover, and they may find themselves falling in love with life. So have compassion for these people as best you can. Don't interact if you don't have to. Don't become the screen they splatter upon. Yes. There is a saying by a friend of Bashar, who says, live in the eye of the storm. And we're going to borrow that and share that. Because if you as an individual can do just that, live in the eye of the storm, meaning I am aware of the chaos and confusion around me, but I am in peace with who I am. I feel safe in my world, or I'm beginning to generate a sense of feeling safe in my world. I see the bond I have with other humans. I see, and when I allow myself to perceive my bond with other humans, I can then see their creative solutions for the chaos, for the confusion, and I can be comforted by their creativity. I can be inspired by their choices, and I can be motivated to be more vulnerable, which allows more love in. So no one yet is completely 100% fear-based or 100% love-based. Nowhere on the planet. There are some few very rare individuals. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I'll give you an example, is about 99.9%, but he's still human, so he may never achieve the 100% love-based. And there is no one who is 100% fear-based. So humanity as a whole, and individual by individual, you are choosing day by day, sometimes moment by moment, which camp, which tribe you're going to settle into. So you're trying it out. And it's really fascinating from our perspective because there are, as an overall being, an individual consciousness, you have so many aspects. You have health, you have money, you have career, you have family, you have friends, you have your creative outlet, just as a small example. And maybe in family, you're very love-based. But when it comes to money, you're very fear-based. So this opportunity through the experience of COVID and its impact on your society, you're going to have so many opportunities to choose to either let go of the fear, make a different choice. In other words, any place where you're holding fear in your life, you're going to have a chance to examine it deeply. You're going to have a chance to look at all the protective mechanisms you have around your fear. And you're going to have a chance to decide, I'm willing to release that, to engage the love, because this is so much more rewarding. This is where the peace is. This is where the joy is. This is where the success is. This is where the abundance lives. Over here, there's never enough. Over here, there's always a sense of disconnect, loneliness, uncertainty, a lack of safety, security, compromised belonging, compromised esteem, inability to access your creativity, and an ongoing fear that doesn't allow you to truly know who you are or where your belonging in the world is. Very stressful place to live. So we do not judge whichever tribe you choose or your adventure in the choosing. We're simply sharing from our perspective. We would think you would be so much happier doing the work, whatever the work you need to do to release your fear, to choose the love, to choose the happiness. And that's where we come from. That's why we're here, because from our point of view, our belief system, if you will, there is nothing outside of love. Even the fear, because remember what we said, God, fear may not belong to God, it may not belong to Goddess, but it's definitely part of all that is. And so there can be no better than. Love is not greater than fear, but it is preferred. It is so much more joyous. You cannot know the light. You cannot truly know the light unless you have experienced the darkness. And there are those souls present in incarnations now that are taking this opportunity to fully develop an understanding of darkness, of resistance to love and light, to fully experience that. Just as there are those who are saying, I'm ready to climb out of that, I'm done with that, I'm ready to fully develop my relationship, my understanding, to find my skills, my strengths that pull me into the love and allow me to further expand that vibration. So that is our sharing. We'll be adding more throughout the evening, but that's the basis of our sharing this evening. The timing of COVID, we have spoken since March of this year that we perceived 3 waves, that we saw the first wave slowing down and settling, if you will, about mid-May. And things did quiet a little bit. They didn't go all the way to zero, but they did definitely calm down. But then you had, which we thought was going to be, we originally thought that June and July were going to be relatively quiet. But what happened with the racial tension exploded, people came back together into these large groups, and people also got bored of being alone and separate from their day-to-day reality. So they re-engaged with other people without any of the precautions of not engaging the virus. And so instead of having June, July, and August to regroup, rebalance, strengthen, instead the second wave has started earlier than what we had originally predicted. We have said from the beginning, which is when we first started to speak of this, was late last year, in 2019, and then spoke even more publicly in March of 2020. We have stated repeatedly that we believe the second wave will be the most deadly, and that you're just now you're entering into the second wave now. So July, we hope to see a dip in August where things calm in August. There's too many unknowns to even say probability or possibility. We simply say that it is our prayer for humanity at this point that things calm, because beginning in September, we see another sharp, steep rise in the number of hospitalizations and deaths that are really going to stress the United States and so many other countries, but in particular the United States. And then about the end of the year, a calming, not because a vaccine is available, because the answer to this is not necessarily a vaccine. The answer to this is to choose to not fear, to let go of fear, which is fascinating because you're right in the middle of something that's generating such tremendous fear in so many people in so many ways. So calming at the end of the year, and then the third wave coming in the spring of 2021 with a pandemic not disappearing, because it's going to be like your influenza. It will come back in waves because the virus itself is mutating. So that's going to be the real challenge in developing a vaccine, is that, that works for the virus that was active 3 months ago. Now it's mutated, and the virus may or may not be effective against it. There's so many things that are still being discovered. But the key concepts we want you to understand is the virus is not your enemy. Fear. Fear is if you must have an enemy, name fear as your enemy. The vibration of fear attracts the virus. Have you ever watched those National Geographic programs, which our channel doesn't really like to watch because the lions chase the gazelles, right? And before they decide which gazelle to chase, they look for the weakest one. They look for the one that might be injured or sick or old or not moving as quickly or not moving in sync with the rest of the gazelles. And they target that one because they know they have a better chance to take that animal as their dinner, as their prey. The virus is somewhat like that in terms of it is attracted, from our perspective, to fear. Fear weakens you. Fear takes your power from you. Fear takes your creativity away from you. Fear dims and silences your strongest potential, which is your remembrance that you are beloved of God. From that remembrance, you can draw tremendous strength, tremendous comfort, tremendous energy. But if you allow fear to sever that connection, you become much weaker. And that is why we say that fear attracts the virus to you. Now, there are other things happening in your world. That just happens to be really large and loud. But there's some really inspirational things happening too. And we've been challenging those that we work with, our students, to find pieces of inspiration. Technological breakthroughs are being made that are allowing communities to form and work together over great distances. You've had the beginning of, just as you're experiencing this evening, working as a group, and each of you in a separate individual location. But the technology has been, what is the correct English? It has been slow. But the development, even in the last 3 months, because now it's really necessary and wanted and people are asking for it, now the focus comes and creativity comes and solutions are coming. The online school experience will be greatly different this fall for some schools, because they've now realized we have to train the teachers, we have to train the administrators, we have to invest in the IT, we have to invest in the software. And companies like Zoom are now announcing partnerships with educational groups, because they're now realizing how important it is to partner and bring their technology so that these educators can come back into their effectiveness with their students. So it's going to change. We believe that in about 2 years' time, you're not going to be looking at a person on a screen. You're going to have something along the lines of holographic projections. So it'll be as if the person can be in the room with you, and you'll be interacting with a three-dimensional representation. For some of you, that'll be like, no. Our channel says, no, I'll have to get dressed up again. That's a bit of humor. But the idea is that technology is changing. We want you to look for these things. We want you to look for these moments of inspiration. We want you to see what's happening with the earth, cleaning the air, cleaning the water. This has been March, April, May, June, 4.5 months of your time. And in 4.5 months of your time, the earth has removed tons of pollutants from the air, tons of pollutants from your water. Imagine what the earth could be like if humans responded to this and realized, if we don't put so much pollution into the earth, onto the earth, into our water, into our air, how much better could life be going forward for everyone? So there's really inspirational things, and we're inviting you to find those as well. So compassion. Other people's pain does not belong to you, and you don't need to react to it, but instead you can respond with compassion, understanding that they're building, hopefully, to a crescendo of pain that will have them making the choice to choose love rather than the fear, to choose trust rather than the fear. So our sharing, we thank you for providing the space and allowing us to speak. So this concludes our group sharing, and we turn now to individual questions and answers.